Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the journey of Tristan Walker.
Oh, yeah.
He's an entrepreneur who built Walker & Company,
Walker and Company.
a health and beauty company focused on people of color.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how it all started with him just trying to solve a problem he was facing.
Right, from what I understand, the company's flagship brand Bevel was born from his own struggle to find good shaving products for men with curly hair.
Yeah, exactly. And his whole journey is fascinating. Like, you really have to go all the way back to his childhood.
Okay, so take us back. Where did it all begin?
Well, he grew up in the projects in Queens, New York, and that experience really instilled in him a drive to succeed. Like, from a young age, he was determined to escape poverty and achieve wealth.
Wow, so he was always ambitious, even as a kid.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He was exploring everything, acting, athletics, Wall Street, you name it.
Huh. It seems like his definition of success at that time was all about wealth.
It was, and we'll see how that perspective changes over time. But one thing that remained constant was the influence of his mother. She worked incredibly hard to support him and his brother.
Mothers can have such a profound impact.
Absolutely. She instilled in him the importance of education as a path to a better life, and that led him to a pivotal moment, attending Hotchkiss, a super elite boarding school.
Wow. Talk about a culture shock, going from the projects of Queens to being surrounded by some of the wealthiest families in America.
I know, right? It really challenged his assumptions about wealth and success.
I bet. Did he feel out of place?
At first, yeah. But it didn't discourage him. It actually fueled his determination. It showed him he could compete with anyone, regardless of where he came from.
That's an important lesson to learn.
For sure. And he carried that with him when he graduated with an economics degree and went on to pursue a career on Wall Street.
Wall Street sounds like the obvious path for someone with his ambition.
You'd think so, but surprisingly, he describes those 2 years as the worst of his life.
Really? What happened?
He was super disillusioned by the culture and the lack of fulfillment. He just wasn't happy.
Wow. So much for the fast track to riches.
Exactly. But looking back, it was actually a blessing in disguise because he got laid off from J.P. Morgan right before the 2008 financial crisis hit.
Oh, wow. Talk about lucky timing.
Right. So he decided to apply to Stanford Business School, and that's when everything changed. Silicon Valley opened his eyes to the world of tech startups.
Ah, Silicon Valley. That's a huge leap from the world of finance.
It is. He saw all these young entrepreneurs building companies, making millions, and actually having a positive impact on the world. It was a stark contrast to Wall Street.
So he found something that gave him a sense of purpose beyond just making money.
Yeah, exactly. He was drawn to the idea of building something new, something that could change the world. And there was one company in particular that caught his eye, Foursquare.
Foursquare. Oh, yeah, I remember that app. It was pretty innovative.
It was, and Tristan was determined to be a part of it.
So what did he do?
He emailed the CEO, Dennis Crowley, 8 times before he finally landed an internship.
8 times. That's some serious persistence.
Oh, he was relentless. And that internship eventually turned into a full-time job after he graduated from Stanford.
Wow. What a story. So it sounds like his time at Foursquare played a big role in shaping his entrepreneurial journey.
It was a huge learning experience. He saw firsthand how a small team could grow a company from the ground up. He learned about fundraising, product development, building a user base, all that stuff.
It's like he got a crash course in the startup world. So what happened after Foursquare?
Well, that's when things get really interesting. During his time there, he met Ben Horowitz, who's a partner at the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz.
Ah, Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest names in Silicon Valley.
Exactly. So when Tristan decided to leave Foursquare, Ben offered him a pretty unique opportunity to become an entrepreneur in residence at their firm.
Entrepreneur in residence? What's that?
It's a position where you basically get to come up with new business ideas and potentially get funding to turn them into reality.
Wow. That sounds like an incredible opportunity.
It was. But believe it or not, Tristan actually struggled at first.
Why is that?
He was trying so hard to come up with those so-called good ideas, the ones he thought VCs would love.
I see. Trying to predict what investors want can be a trap.
Exactly. And thankfully, Ben Horowitz recognized this and gave him some game-changing advice. He told him to focus on bad ideas.
Bad ideas. Now, that's interesting. I'm curious to hear more about what he meant by that.
Me too. Basically, he was encouraging Tristan to explore those problems that are often overlooked or dismissed. You know, the ones that might seem small or insignificant to others.
So problems that no one else is really paying attention to.
Exactly, because good ideas are usually overcrowded. Tons of people are already working on them. But bad ideas, well, those are often full of untapped potential.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. So how did this advice affect Tristan?
Well, it completely changed his approach. He started digging deeper, tapping into his own experiences, and looking for opportunities where others saw obstacles.
Okay, I'm hooked. We'll have to hear about how this new perspective led him to the creation of Bevel in the next part of our deep dive.
So Tristan was searching for that bad idea, right? And it turned out to be something he knew all too well, shaving.
You mentioned earlier that he struggled with razor bumps.
Exactly. It's a really common issue for men with curly hair, but the mainstream market basically ignored it.
Wow. I could see how that would be frustrating.
Oh, it was. And he noticed that this lack of attention extended to the whole ethnic beauty aisle.
So there was a market need, but it was being completely overlooked.
Yeah. And Tristan saw this as a huge opportunity. I mean, think about it. People of color were spending way more on health and beauty product than any other demographic, but their needs weren't being met.
It's amazing how a problem that affects so many people can just be ignored like that.
It is. And when Tristan tried to pitch this idea to venture capitalists, most of them didn't get it.
Really? They didn't see razor bumps as a real problem?
Nope. Some of them even made jokes about it, referencing movies and stuff. It was clear they just didn't understand.
That must be discouraging. Did he ever think about giving up?
Not a chance. He knew he was onto something important, something that could really make a difference.
So how did he turn this bad idea into a business? What was his solution?
He decided to create a single-blade razor system specifically designed to prevent razor bumps.
Interesting. So he went against the trend of those multi-blade razors.
He did, and it was a smart move. He did his research and found out that the old-school single-blade safety razor was actually a much better solution for men with curly hair.
Huh. So sometimes the best solutions are the ones that have been around for ages.
Exactly. And Tristan wanted to bring back this classic design and make it cool again, modern, sophisticated, but also effective.
It sounds like he had a very clear vision for what he wanted to create.
Oh, yeah. And that attention to detail was everywhere. Not just the razor itself, but the packaging, the whole unboxing experience. Even the shaving cream and the priming oil. He wanted everything to feel premium.
He wasn't just selling a product, he was creating an experience.
Exactly, and that's what set Bevel apart. But even with a great product, fundraising was still a challenge.
Yeah, I imagine it was tough to convince investors to back a product for a market they didn't understand.
It was. He had to really sell his vision, share the data, his personal experiences, and really make them see the need.
So how much did he end up raising?
He managed to secure around $2.5 million in seed money.
Seed money. Could you explain what that is for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term?
Sure. Seed money is basically the initial funding that a startup gets to get their business going. It's usually used for things like product development, marketing, and hiring.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. So with that seed money, Tristan was able to launch Bevel. What was his initial strategy?
He decided to launch as a subscription service, which was a pretty popular model at the time, and he leveraged his network from Foursquare to get the word out.
Smart move. Using your network is so important when you're starting out.
Absolutely. And that initial buzz combined with the positive customer experiences helped Bevel grow organically through word of mouth.
It sounds like he was building a community around the brand.
He was. He tapped into a shared experience, a desire for products that were made with men of color in mind. It was more than just a business. It was a movement.
And he also launched Bevel Code, right?
Yep, Bevel Code was an online magazine that offered grooming and styling advice specifically for men of color.
So he created a space for men of color to connect and find information tailored to their needs.
Exactly. It filled a void that had existed for way too long.
What an amazing story. So how did Bevel go from being this online community to being sold in Target?
It was actually a bit of a happy accident. Tristan noticed that a bunch of the customer reviews on the Bevel website were from Target employees.
No way. So Target employees were already using and loving the product.
Yep. And Tristan saw an opportunity. He reached out to those employees and eventually got in touch with the executives at Target.
That's bold. What happened?
It worked. They loved the product and decided to start selling Bevel in their stores.
That's incredible. And it wasn't just about being in Target. It was about where in Target they were placed, right?
Right. They weren't stood in the ethnic aisle. They were in the main shaving aisle.
That's a huge win for representation.
It was. And for Tristan, it was a really emotional moment. He even talks about taking his son to Target and seeing his son recognize him on the Bevel packaging.
Oh, that must have been amazing seeing the impact of his work on his own son.
Yeah, it definitely solidified the importance of his mission. But even with all this success, Bevel still faced some challenges down the road.
What kind of challenges?
Well, in 2018, they had trouble raising more funding, and the competition was getting fierce. It's something a lot of growing businesses go through.
So what did Tristan do? Did he find a way to keep Bevel independent?
Well, that's where things take an interesting turn. He ended up selling Walker & Company to Procter & Gamble in 2018.
Wow. Really, I would have thought he would have tried everything to keep it independent.
He did, but he realized that to really grow Bevel and reach a global audience, he needed help. And P&G was the perfect partner.
So he ended up selling the company to P&G. Huh. I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, it was a big decision, but it wasn't a typical exit, like where the founder just cashes out and walks away.
Okay, so what was the reasoning behind it?
Tristan realized that to really grow Bevel and reach a wider audience, he needed more resources, and P&G had the infrastructure and the global reach to make that happen.
That makes sense, but I imagine it was hard to let go of something he built from scratch. Was he worried about losing control of his vision?
Of course, but he negotiated a deal that allowed Bevel to keep operating independently within P&G. And get this, he actually became the first Black CEO in P&G's history, like over 180 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about breaking barriers.
It was huge. He wasn't just selling his company. He was using his success to create change from within a massive corporation.
That's really inspiring. So he joins P&G and then what?
Well, he made another bold move. He decided to move Walker & Company's headquarters from Silicon Valley to Atlanta.
Why Atlanta?
It was a personal decision. For Tristan, it was about raising his sons in a diverse environment and contributing to the Black community in Atlanta.
So it was about more than just business. It was about aligning his personal values with his work.
Exactly. And he had a long-term vision. He wanted to build something that would outlast him, a legacy that would continue to serve an underserved market for generations to come.
That's powerful. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Tristan Walker's story, what are the key takeaways?
I think there's a lot we can learn from him. First, it's about finding opportunity in those overlooked spaces, those bad ideas that others might ignore. Tristan saw a need, and he created a solution that resonated with a whole community.
It's a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere.
Exactly, and he never gave up. Even when faced with rejection after rejection, he kept pushing forward. That kind of persistence is crucial for any entrepreneur.
It's about believing in your vision even when no one else does.
Right. And finally, Tristan shows us the importance of using your success to make a positive impact. Whether it's building a more inclusive company or investing in your community's success is about more than just personal gain.
It's about leaving the world a better place than you found it. And Tristan Walker has definitely done that. Well, folks, that's our deep dive into the journey of Tristan Walker and Walker & Company. A truly inspiring story of innovation, perseverance, and using your success to create positive change. Thanks for listening.